Once upon a time, in a sea far, far away, there lay a kingdom. This was no ordinary kingdom, you see. It was a kingdom full of mermaids and mermen. The ruler of this beautiful kingdom was a strong and handsome sea king. This sea king had been widowed for many years and only had his mother and 6 beautiful daughters to keep him company. As his daughters grew older, each of them would go visit the surface to see the kingdoms above on their 15th birthday. When each of the sisters would return, the Little Mermaid would listen to their stories of the world above. The Little Mermaid listened for many years. After a while, the Little Mermaid was ready to venture to the surface. The sun had just set when she broke the surface, and the evening stars were just appearing. Suddenly, a ship approached. The Little Mermaid made her way over to the mysterious ship. Inside, she saw the most handsome young prince. He left the cabin and made his way up to the ship deck. The Little Mermaid jumped back and went back under the water. She peeked back over the surface and saw the beautiful fireworks. She stared at the prince. It got very late, but the mermaid wouldn't take her eyes off the young prince as the party slowly turned into silence and everyone went to bed. As the ship began to sail, dark clouds grew in the distance as a terrible storm began to brew. The rough waves now began to throw the ship around the waters as thunder crackled and boomed across the sky. The waves rose up like towering black mountains, nearly taking the ship under. The Little Mermaid thought that this was all fun and games, but the shipmates did not. The ship then began to split into 2. The Little Mermaid began to search for the prince in the water. She swam around, panicking, trying to find him. When she reached the young prince, she pulled him into her arms and tried to find land. She began to cry a little, worrying she couldn't save the prince. Oh, poor prince. I've never seen anything so beautiful. Please, please live. Once the sun had risen, they finally reached the shore. She sat on the land, stroking his hair, singing to him softly. Ah. Days and nights went by, and every day she would revisit the spot where she had saved the prince. But she never saw the prince there. Each day, she grew sadder and sadder. Little Mermaid, her sister said, "Why have you grown so sad?" She sighed and looked at her sisters. "You must promise not to tell Father." Each of the sisters then promised never to tell. When I went to the surface, I saw a magnificent ship full of humans. They were having a great celebration for the young prince. Oh, and he was so handsome. But then that storm came and it split the boat in 2. I saved the prince and took him back to the land. But then another human came, so I hid. My heart is broken. I go back there every day, hoping he'll be there. But he never is there. He went off with the woman who found him. I know of this prince. He lives in that beautiful palace. Come, little sister, we'll show him to you. The sisters took the Little Mermaid to the surface, where there stood a beautiful palace with a great marble stone and tall towers. Now that the mermaid knew where the prince lived, she would swim to the surface each day by the palace in hopes of finding him again. Someday she would see him sail his boat and watch him from behind the green rushes. The Little Mermaid, who now longed for the prince and wanted to be a human just like him, decided that the only thing that she could do would be to get an eternal soul and become a human. She went to the sea witch. She traveled long and far through a very dangerous part of the ocean to find this witch. By the witch's dwelling, no sea plants grew, no seaweed. It was bare and dark. I know exactly what you want, the witch said with a dark tone, and it is very foolish of you. But if it is what you must have, I will make it so. You want to rid yourself of your tail and your pair of legs? You want the young prince to fall in love with you? Well, my dear, you are just in time. Before sunrise, you must swim to the shore and sit on the dry land. Then your tail will divide and turn into 2 legs, but it will hurt. It will feel as if daggers have been pushed through your stomach and remain there. Although humans see you, they will believe you are the most graceful human they have ever laid their eyes on. You will feel as though you are always walking on blades so sharp they would cut your feet. I will help you, but are you willing to endure the price and the pain? Yes, the little mermaid said with wide eyes full of tears and fear and excitement. But remember this, once you become human, you can never become a mermaid again. You can never come back through the waters to see your family. And if you do not win the prince's heart, then you will not receive an eternal soul. If he marries another, your heart will break the next morning, and you will turn into sea foam, the witch said, trying to hide her grin. That's a risk I must take, the mermaid said, with her voice full of fear. You must also pay me, the witch bellows. It's not much of a price. Your voice is the most beautiful of anyone's under the sea. I don't doubt you wish to captivate the prince with your voice, so you must give your voice to me. But if you take my voice, how will I win the prince's heart? The mermaid cried. You have your looks, your pretty face, your lovely form, those bright eyes. You are not backing out now, are you, my dear? The little mermaid shook her head. Oh, go ahead. The witch then cut off her tongue, taking her ability to speak. She quickly pushed those thoughts away and swam to the surface, swimming to the shore by the prince's castle. The little mermaid swam to the shore by the prince's castle and sat on the shore, waiting to transform into a human. As the sun rose, she began to change, and she looked down as her beautiful tail turned into the loveliest pair of legs any girl could have. She kicked them, admiring them. The prince walked out onto the beach and saw her. Are you all right? He asked, helping her up. She looked at him with her deep blue eyes sadly, because she could not speak. Here, let me help you, he said as he led her to the castle. Every step she took felt as if she was walking on sharp pieces of glass, just as the witch had said. But she gladly endured it to be with the prince. The prince stared, admiring her beauty. The prince grew more fond of the mermaid over the days they spent together, but he never thought of making her his wife. You are most dear to me, the prince said as he sat with the little mermaid. You have the kindest heart and soul. You remind me so much of a young girl who saved me after a shipwreck. I washed up on a shore near a temple where the young girl saved me. I may have only seen her once, but I can't love anyone else. The little mermaid's heart sank. If he only knew it was I who saved him, she thought. Many days passed as rumors arose in the kingdom that the prince was set to marry a princess in a nearby kingdom. I'm being forced to make this journey. I need to at least visit this princess. My parents would never make me wed her. I cannot love her. She doesn't resemble the girl at the temple as you do. I trust you are not afraid of the sea, and I would like for you to go with me to meet her, the prince said. So the mermaid and the prince made their journey to the nearby kingdom on the ship. They waited for many days at the castle with the princess's family. They said the princess was away in a temple learning every royal virtue, but she appeared at last. The little mermaid grew a bit jealous of the princess's beauty. It was you, the prince said with a smile. You were the beautiful girl who saved me. He ran to the temple and kissed the strange princess inside and turned to the little mermaid. Oh, my greatest dream has come true. I found her. The little mermaid faked a smile and nodded. She began to feel her heart break slowly. For the days after he wed his princess, she would turn into sea foam and cease to exist. The Little Mermaid didn't pay any attention to what was going on around her. Her heart was in too much pain to focus on anything else. The prince and the princess were finally wed. Suddenly, her sisters were at the surface, and all of them had very short hair now. "Sisters, dear, we sold our hair to the sea witch so she would send you to help her. She gave us this dagger. Before the sun rises, you must stab the prince's heart, and when his warm blood hits your feet, you will become one of us again. Kill the prince and come back to us. Hurry, hurry!" The Little Mermaid ran back into the cabin where the prince and his new bride slept. The mermaid kissed the prince's head and held the dagger up, ready to stab him. She'd rather die than kill the man she loved. She ran to the side of the ship and threw herself into the ocean and felt herself turn into sea foam. As the sun began to rise, the Little Mermaid felt herself rising to the heavens. She looked around at the heavenly daughters. "Who are you? Where am I?" she asked. "We are the daughters of the air," they said. "A mermaid has no eternal soul, just as the daughters of the air do not. But we can earn one by doing good deeds. Your suffering and loyalty has raised you up out of your pain and brought you here to the realm of airy spirits. Now, within the course of 300 years, you may receive an eternal soul as well." The Little Mermaid looked up into the heavens with tearful eyes. She now, being unseen, kisses the prince's forehead one last time and rose into the air with the other heavenly daughters. The end.